They said she was the kind of woman who never lifted her own luggage, the kind whose perfume entered a room before she did, whose heels clicked like a metronome of privilege. Clarissa Langford, 45, golden hair swept high, pearls around her throat like armor. Boarding that flight to Atlanta, she looked every inch the queen she believed she was. And seated by the window in seat 14B was a man who looked like everything she wasn't. A cleaner, plain blue uniform, worn-out shoes, calloused hands folded neatly in his lap. His name was Samuel Cole. Clarissa stopped mid-aisle when she saw him. Her lips tightened. "Excuse me," she told the flight attendant. "I think there's been a mistake." The attendant smiled politely, checked the ticket. "No mistake, ma'am. That's your seat." Clarissa's gaze flicked toward Samuel, the faint scent of disinfectant still clinging to him. His head bowed in quiet humility. "I paid for comfort class," she hissed. "Not this." Samuel turned to her, his voice soft, steady. "You can have the window seat if it makes you more comfortable, ma'am." But that only deepened her offense. "That's not the point," she snapped, clutching her designer purse as if the air around him might soil it. Passengers watched, some embarrassed, others disgusted. But Clarissa didn't care. The flight attendant offered a tight smile. "We're full today, ma'am. Would you like to take your seat or wait for the next flight?" Clarissa sighed dramatically, forcing a brittle laugh. "Fine." She slid into her seat, pressing herself against the aisle. Her shoulder turned away from Samuel like he was a storm she didn't want to feel. Minutes passed. Samuel didn't speak. He simply stared out the window as clouds drifted by, his reflection calm against the glass. Then, faintly, Clarissa heard him humming. An old hymn. "Ain't no grave gonna hold my body down." The melody threaded through the roar of the engines, steady and haunting. Clarissa closed her eyes, annoyed, yet something in his voice, the quiet conviction, unsettled her. She remembered that song. Her mother used to hum it before her heart failed, before money became her new religion. The plane climbed higher. Turbulence shook the cabin. Nervous laughter, quick prayers. Clarissa gripped the armrest. "I hate flying," she muttered. Samuel turned, offering a calm smile. "Nothing to fear, ma'am. God's got the wings." She almost scoffed, but the sincerity in his tone disarmed her. For the first time, she looked at him properly. Brown skin lined with hard work, eyes that held kindness instead of complaint. Then, a sound no one ever forgets, a deafening boom. The plane lurched, gasps, screams, oxygen masks dropping like judgment. Clarissa's chest tightened as the world tilted. The lights flickered. She grabbed Samuel's arm, nails digging into his sleeve. "What's happening?" she shouted. He stayed calm, breathing slow. "Hold on, ma'am. Just hold on." The pilot's voice cracked through the speaker. "Ladies and gentlemen, brace for impact." The world spun into chaos. Metal screamed, luggage flew, and Clarissa's world, her fortune, her status, meant nothing. The plane plummeted through clouds, a wounded bird falling from grace. In that moment, all her pride dissolved into pure, desperate humanity. Samuel pulled her close, shielding her with his body. "Stay down," he yelled. Clarissa felt his heartbeat, strong and steady against her cheek. Then blackness, silence. When she woke, there was fire, twisted metal, rain, smoke curling into a bruised sky. She coughed, the air thick with gasoline and prayers. Around her, cries for help. The plane had broken open like a crushed can. And beside her, Samuel, blood on his forehead, arm twisted, but alive. He was trying to pull her free. "Don't move," he grunted. "Your leg's pinned." She looked down, debris trapping her thigh. Panic surged. I can't move." Samuel tightened his grip. "You will. Just breathe." For the next hour, she watched this man, this cleaner she had looked down upon, fight through pain to save strangers. He carried a crying child from the wreckage. He tore his uniform to bandage a wound. When fire threatened to spread, he used his bare hands to move burning debris. Clarissa sobbed. Why are you helping them? You're hurt. He looked at her, sweat mixing with rain, eyes full of quiet truth. Because somebody's got to. Helicopters thundered above. Rescuers shouted through the smoke. But the wind howled, the rain thickened, and the ground began to tremble. A nearby fuel tank leaking dangerously close to fire. We have to move, Samuel shouted, trying to lift the metal trapping her. Clarissa screamed in pain. Leave me. Save yourself. But he didn't stop. I'm not leaving you. Not after everything. For the first time in her life, she saw the kind of wealth that couldn't be bought. Courage, faith, and the quiet dignity of a man who had nothing yet gave everything. Finally, with a desperate heave, he freed her leg. They stumbled together through the wreckage, flames closing in. Clarissa leaned on him, limping, trembling. I'm sorry, she whispered, for earlier, for everything. He smiled weakly. Don't waste breath on sorry. Just live. They reached open ground. Rain poured harder now, drumming on their skin like penance. Clarissa turned to thank him, but he wasn't beside her. She spun around. Samuel was on his knees, chest heaving, blood soaking his sleeve. Samuel! She screamed, dropping beside him. His voice was faint. You're safe now. He collapsed. Rescue teams swarmed moments later, lights cutting through the smoke. Clarissa clutched his hand, shouting for help. They pulled her away as she screamed, Don't you dare die on me. You saved me. But Samuel's eyes stayed closed, peaceful, as if the storm no longer touched him. Days later, Clarissa sat in a hospital bed, her leg wrapped, her soul heavier than her bandages. Reporters called her the miracle survivor, but every headline felt like a lie. The real miracle was lying somewhere in a morgue, nameless to the world that had ignored him. She requested his file. Samuel Cole, she whispered, tracing the letters. A janitor, a man invisible in life, immortal in sacrifice. She asked to meet his family. She needed to, for reasons she couldn't yet name. Weeks passed. At his memorial, she stood at the back, unnoticed, listening to the hymn he once hummed on the plane. Ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. Tears fell freely now. When his daughter approached the podium, holding a photo of him smiling, Clarissa broke. She stepped forward, voice trembling. Your father saved me. I owe him everything. The daughter looked at her, the woman in pearls and pain. He always said, she whispered, that God puts us where we're needed most. Clarissa nodded slowly. Then he put him on that plane to save my soul. The service ended. As people left, Clarissa lingered by the coffin. I'll make it right, she promised softly. I'll make them remember your name. Outside, thunder rolled. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. She hesitated, answered. A man's voice crackled through static. Mrs. Langford? This is Detective Wallace. We need to talk about Samuel Cole. Her heart stopped. Why? The voice lowered. Because we found something in the wreckage. Something with his name on it and yours. Clarissa froze, the detective's voice echoing through the sterile quiet of her hospital room. Rain tapped against the window, faint but insistent, like a reminder that storms never truly end. They just change shape. Detective, she managed. What do you mean something with both our names? There was a pause, the kind that carried weight. I'd rather not say over the phone, he replied. But it's important. I'll be at your place in an hour. When the call ended, Clarissa just sat there, pale, shaken, staring at the dull reflection of her face in the glass. Samuel's name still echoed in her mind. His voice, his hands, his kindness. How could his name and hers end up on the same piece of evidence from that wreckage? The nurse entered softly, adjusting the four. You okay, Ms. Langford? Clarissa forced a nod. Just tired. But inside, she wasn't tired. She was terrified. When she returned home later that evening, the house felt wrong. Too clean. Too empty. Her husband's photo on the shelf. The late Charles Langford, CEO, philanthropist, man of public charm and private coldness, stared back at her like judgment frozen in time. She poured herself a drink, hands trembling. Her mind replayed Samuel's last words. "Don't waste breath on sorry. Just live." The doorbell broke the silence. Detective Wallace, tall, calm, eyes sharp behind his glasses, stepped in, rain on his coat. "Mrs. Langford," he greeted softly. "I appreciate you seeing me." She nodded, motioning toward the sitting room. The crackle of the fireplace filled the air. "Please," she said, voice brittle. "Tell me what this is about." He reached into his briefcase, pulling out a clear evidence bag. Inside, a small, charred metal box. "This was recovered near the tail section of the plane," he explained. "We thought it was part of the cargo manifest. But when we opened it—" He paused, letting the moment hang. Clarissa leaned forward. "What's inside?" He placed it on the table, unzipped the seal, and slid out a photo, faded but intact. A picture of a young black man in janitor coveralls standing beside a woman in her 20s, Clarissa. Her breath caught. "That can't be." Wallace studied her expression. "It was found in Samuel Cole's carry-on, with a note addressed to you." Her world tilted again. "No," she whispered. "I didn't know him before that flight." Wallace handed her the folded note, its edges scorched. Clarissa opened it slowly. The handwriting was neat, deliberate. "Dear Clarissa, if you're reading this, then fate brought us full circle. I never got to thank you properly, but I guess God doesn't do coincidences. You once saved me when I was nobody. Now maybe I've done the same for you. SC." Her pulse thundered in her ears. The words blurred. This can't be right. "I never—" She stopped. A memory flickered. A rainy night 20 years ago. A small-town diner. A young janitor boy she helped get a scholarship after catching him cleaning floors long past closing. She hadn't thought of him in decades. She never even knew his name. Samuel Cole. Her eyes filled. "He remembered me," she whispered. Wallace nodded quietly. "Seems so." He hesitated, then added, "There's more." He opened another folder. His family didn't know he was on that flight. According to records, he wasn't scheduled to fly that day at all. The seat wasn't his. Clarissa frowned. "Then whose was it?" Wallace looked at her. Eyes steady, voice low. "It was meant for you, ma'am. That's what we can't explain." A chill crept down her spine. "What are you saying?" He leaned back, thoughtful. "We checked the passenger manifest. Someone switched seats before boarding at the last minute. The ticket under your name was exchanged for his. No record of who authorized it. But whatever happened, it saved your life and cost him his." Clarissa's heart pounded. Her voice shook. "Are you saying he took my seat?" Wallace nodded slowly. "Yes, and the question is, why?" She stared at the photograph on the table. Samuel's smile, her younger self beside him. Fate, tangled and cruel. "He must have known something," she whispered. "Something I didn't." Wallace gathered the files. "We're still investigating. But there's one more thing." The flight recorder picked up fragments of conversation from the cabin before the crash. "There's a voice we believe was Samuel's, saying something about a promise kept." Clarissa looked up sharply. "A promise?" Wallace met her eyes. "Did you ever make him one?" She shook her head, then stopped, memory cracking open like thunder. A diner booth. Rain outside. The young man, eyes full of hope. Her own voice saying, "If I ever make it big, I'll make sure you do too. I promise." Tears spilled silently. "I said it, but I never kept it." Wallace's tone softened. "Maybe he did." The clock ticked in the silence that followed. Clarissa's gaze drifted to the flames. Each flicker whispered of debt, fate, redemption. "Detective," she murmured, "you said the note was addressed to me. Was that all?" He hesitated. There was something else inside the box. Something that doesn't belong to him. He reached into his briefcase and placed another bag on the table. Inside it, a silver pendant. Clarissa froze. It was her mother's locket. Missing since the night her house was robbed 15 years ago. Wallace's voice was barely a whisper. "We ran prints. The only ones on it were Samuel's. Clarissa's blood ran cold. That's impossible. How would he? The detective stood. That's what I intend to find out. He gathered his things, nodding politely. Thank you for your time, Mrs. Langford. We'll be in touch. As the door closed behind him, Clarissa sat motionless, heart hammering. Her mind raced through years, the robbery, the scholarship, the promise, the plane. Everything connected by invisible threads she'd never seen. She rose slowly, walked to the window. Rain streaked down the glass like tears on her reflection. And there, faintly, through the storm outside, she thought she saw a figure standing by the gate. A man in a blue janitor's uniform, watching silently. Her breath caught. "Samuel?" she whispered. But when she blinked, he was gone. Her phone buzzed again. A text. Unknown number. Promise kept. But not done yet. Clarissa's glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. The message glowed on her screen like a ghost speaking through static. Promise kept. But not done yet. Clarissa's breath came shallow. She stared at it, pulse hammering, mind scrambling for reason. It had to be a cruel prank. Maybe a hacker. Maybe one of those journalists digging for a story. But no, there was something about the phrasing. The calm, the weight, sounded like him. She typed quickly, "Who is this?" and waited. No reply, only the faint hum of the storm outside and the echo of her own heart beating too loud. For days she tried to shake it, but everywhere she went, she saw signs. A hymn playing faintly in a coffee shop. A janitor sweeping the floor who turned and smiled just like Samuel once did. Even her dreams were filled with flashes. Fire, rain, his hand reaching through smoke. She'd wake up gasping, whispering his name into the darkness. When Detective Wallace called again, she almost didn't answer. But his tone was urgent. "Mrs. Langford, we've got a situation. You might want to come down to the station." An hour later, she sat across from him in a small gray interview room. Wallace placed another evidence bag on the table. Inside, a folded note, damp, found at the crash site during a second sweep. "This was lodged in the fuselage under a seat frame," he said. "It's addressed to you again." Her fingers trembled as she opened it. The same handwriting. "You made a promise to lift me up, but I ended up falling first. Maybe it's not too late to finish what we started." She looked up at Wallace, eyes wide. "He can't have written this on the plane. It's too deliberate." Wallace nodded. "That's what's strange. Forensics dated the ink. It's at least a week old before the crash." Clarissa's voice faltered. "You're saying he knew?" He leaned forward. "I'm saying Samuel Cole boarded that flight for a reason. And somehow that reason is tied to you." Clarissa rubbed her temples, trying to piece together the impossible. He was a janitor, a good man. Why would he have any reason to? She stopped. The word she didn't want to say hung between them. "Follow me." Wallace sighed. "There's something else. We traced the locket, your mother's. It was pawned 12 years ago in Chicago. The signature on the receipt matches Samuel's. But when we cross-checked his address from that time, it didn't exist. The street was demolished 10 years before he supposedly lived there." Clarissa's breath hitched. "Then who was he?" Wallace looked at her steadily. "That's what we're trying to find out. And Mrs. Langford," he paused, "I think you should be careful. Someone's watching you." That night, back home, Clarissa moved through the house like a ghost in her own skin. She drew the curtains, locked the doors, and yet, she felt eyes. Not hateful, not dangerous, just there, watching. On the mantel sat the charred metal box Detective Wallace had left her. She hadn't opened it again since he brought it. But now something inside called to her. She unlatched the lid. Beneath the burnt edges of Samuel's note, she found something she hadn't noticed before. A second compartment. Inside, wrapped in scorched cloth, was an old cassette tape. The label, half faded, read, 4CL. Her throat tightened. CL Clarissa Langford. She didn't even own a tape player anymore. But curiosity and fear pulled her out into the rain, driving to a small thrift store still open past midnight. The old man behind the counter gave her a look when she asked, Cassette player? You trying to wake up ghosts, ma'am? He muttered. She didn't answer. Back home, she sat by the window, pressed play. Static crackled. Then, a voice. Deep, gentle, undeniably Samuel's. If you're hearing this, Clarissa, it means I didn't make it. And that's all right. You once saved me from being invisible. Now maybe I've saved you from forgetting who you were. Her eyes burned with tears. His voice was calm, almost peaceful. You don't know it yet, but we were connected long before that flight. The truth was buried by people with money, power, and reasons to keep me silent. I didn't get on that plane by accident. I got on because someone wanted me gone. Someone close to you. Clarissa's heart stopped. What are you saying, Samuel? She whispered. The tape hissed. Then his voice dropped lower. Look for the initials on the back of the locket. That's where it begins. Trust no one from the foundation. Especially not. The tape cut off, sudden, sharp like a knife through sound. Clarissa gasped. No, come on. She hit rewind, replayed it, but it stopped in the same place every time. She grabbed the locket from her table, hands trembling. Under the tarnished silver, almost invisible, were engraved letters. Aram, Richard Montgomery, her late husband's business partner, the man who'd been managing the Langford Foundation since Charles's death, the same man who told her the crash was God's way of cleansing fate. Clarissa stumbled back, pulse racing. Oh my God! Her phone buzzed again. Another text from the same unknown number. You're close now, but be careful, he knows you're looking. Before she could respond, the lights flickered, then went out. Thunder rolled outside, and through the blackout, the faintest hum drifted through the walls. That same hymn Samuel used to hum. Ain't no grave gonna hold my body down, Clarissa whispered, shaking. Samuel, what did you start? Lightning flashed, and for a split second, reflected in the window behind her, a man stood in the doorway. Not Samuel, taller, sharper, wearing a suit. Richard Montgomery. He smiled faintly, stepping out of the shadows. Clarissa, he said quietly, we need to talk about Samuel Cole. Clarissa froze where she stood. Her heart beat so loud she could almost hear it echo off the walls. Richard Montgomery's silhouette stood against the dim lightning, his face half in shadow, half in that same easy smile she used to trust. You shouldn't be here, she whispered, voice trembling. He stepped closer, the thunder outside punctuating his words. I could say the same to you, Clarissa, digging into things better left buried. She swallowed hard, backing toward the mantel. How did you get in? He chuckled softly. You forget, I helped build this house. I know where every lock hides its weakness. His eyes drifted to the cassette player on the table. You listened to it, didn't you? She didn't answer. The silence between them pulsed, thick with memory and fear. I didn't understand all of it, she lied. He tilted his head, studying her like a chess piece he'd already cornered. Samuel Cole, he said slowly. You know that name cost me millions? Clarissa frowned, her fear tangled with disbelief. He was a janitor, Richard. What could he possibly cost you? Richard smiled thinly. That's what you were supposed to believe. That's what everyone was supposed to believe. But Samuel wasn't just a janitor, Clarissa. He was a witness. The word landed heavy, cutting through the storm. A witness to what? He sighed, pacing to the window. Rain streaked his reflection into something warped. You remember the foundation your husband and I started? The one meant to lift underprivileged youth? Samuel was one of those kids. Only, he wasn't supposed to see what we were really doing. Clarissa's breath caught. You're lying. I wish I were, Richard murmured. But your husband, God rest his soul, wasn't the saint you thought he was. That scholarship money didn't just vanish. It was laundered, shifted, hidden in shell accounts. Samuel stumbled on it when he was working nights as a cleaner at our offices. Her knees went weak. She gripped the chair for balance. So you, what, threatened him? Richard's voice dropped, chillingly calm. We made him an offer to disappear quietly. He didn't take it. Clarissa stared, shaking her head. You killed him. He laughed once. Soft, broken, terrifying. I didn't kill him, Clarissa. The sky did. He stepped closer. But yes, I made sure he was on that flight. The words hit her like the crash all over again. She stumbled back. You switched his seat with mine. Richard's eyes narrowed. Funny how fate works, isn't it? You were supposed to be in 14B, but he checked in early, used your name, said it was a mistake he needed to correct. And he smiled the whole time. Clarissa's mind reeled. He knew what you were planning, she whispered. He got on that plane in my place, to expose you. Richard's lips curved into something cruel. Maybe, but the evidence died with him. She stepped forward, trembling but fierce. No, it didn't. I have his letter, his tape, his. He cut her off sharply. His ghost won't save you. The room fell silent but for the rain. Then Richard glanced toward the cassette player again, noticing something. A red light blinking faintly. You're recording this? Clarissa's breath caught. Too late. His expression hardened. That was a mistake. He lunged. She stumbled back, grabbing the nearest thing, the heavy silver locket on the table. She swung wildly, striking his temple. He staggered, cursing, blood streaking his cheek. The recorder hit the floor, still blinking. Clarissa ran. Down the hallway, barefoot, heart in her throat. Richard's footsteps thundered behind her. You don't understand what you're doing, Clarissa, he shouted. You'll destroy everything your husband built. She reached the back door, wrenching it open, rain slashing against her face. Maybe it deserves to be destroyed. Lightning split the sky. She ran across the yard, slipping in the mud, clutching the locket in her fist. Behind her, Richard's voice echoed through the storm. You think you're the victim here? You think Samuel was a hero? You don't know the whole story. She turned back, shouting over the rain. Then tell me. He hesitated. Then his expression shifted, cold, calculating. You were never supposed to live through that crash. The world tilted. What did you just say? He took a slow step forward, rainwater washing the blood down his face. That plane wasn't meant to fall out of the sky, Clarissa. It was meant to burn before it ever took off. Her voice trembled. You planned it. Not like that, he hissed. It was supposed to be clean, quiet. No one was supposed to suffer. The thunder swallowed her gasp. You tried to kill me. He didn't deny it. In the distance, a siren wailed. Faint. Approaching. Richard looked toward the road, then back at her. You can't stop what's already in motion. Clarissa clutched the locket tighter, voice breaking. Samuel did. Something flickered in Richard's eyes. Fear. Maybe guilt. Maybe both. You think he saved you out of kindness? He said, almost pleading. You really don't remember, do you? She frowned. Remember what? He stepped closer, whispering over the thunder. Samuel Cole wasn't just some boy you helped. He was your son's friend, the one you thought died in that school fire. Clarissa's eyes widened, the world spinning. No, that's not possible. That was... Richard cut her off. The fire was part of it, Clarissa. The cover-up. He survived. We hid him, changed his name, because he knew too much. Tears blurred her vision. He never told me. Richard's voice softened, almost regretful. He couldn't. You'd have never believed him. For a long moment, neither spoke. Just the storm raging like the sky was crying for them both. Then, from the driveway headlights, Detective Wallace's car pulled up, lights flashing through the rain. Richard straightened, eyes narrowing. You called him. Clarissa shook her head. No, but maybe Samuel did. Before he could react, the back door burst open. Wallace stepped out, gun drawn. Richard Montgomery. Don't move. Richard raised his hands slowly, that same cold smirk twisting his mouth. You're too late, Detective. Wallace's voice was steady. We'll see. But before he could finish, Richard whispered something only Clarissa could hear. Something that froze her blood. Check the locket again. He left more than a name. Then he ran, bolting into the rain, disappearing into the dark woods beyond the fence. Wallace shouted after him, but Clarissa just stood there, shaking, the locket in her hand heavy as truth itself. She fumbled with it, nails scraping against the metal, until she felt it. Tiny hidden hinge, clicked open. Inside, not a picture, a microchip, small, black, and engraved with 3 words that made her knees buckle. Project Resurrection, Langford. She looked up at Wallace, trembling. What is this? He stared at her, face pale. Clarissa. That's a government file name. Lightning flashed again. The wind howled. Her phone buzzed. Another text. Now you know why the plane fell. The night after the storm didn't feel like a new day. It felt like the world holding its breath. Clarissa sat in Detective Wallace's office, the locket turned secret still open in her palm. The microchip gleamed under the fluorescent lights, small enough to be forgotten, powerful enough to ruin legacies. Wallace leaned back, jaw tight. We ran the name through the database, he said quietly. Project Resurrection. It's not charity. It's human testing. Clarissa's voice cracked. What kind of testing? Wallace's eyes were heavy with the kind of truth that leaves scars. Experimental biotech research, illegal, conducted through shell foundations to hide federal involvement. Your husband's company funded it. Her breath hitched. My husband, Charles? No, he built hospitals, scholarships. Wallace's tone softened. He built walls too, ones that kept people like Samuel out of the light. He slid a folder toward her. That plane wasn't just carrying passengers. It was transporting classified data, the final reports from Project Resurrection. The same data on that chip. Clarissa stared down at the folder. Inside were photos, hospital wards, medical volunteers, children. And in the corner of one image, blurry but unmistakable, Samuel Cole, years younger, wearing a volunteer badge. Her hands shook. He worked for them? Wallace nodded. He was a test subject before he became a janitor. The project promised poor families medical advancement, but what they gave was poison disguised as hope. When Samuel found out, he tried to expose it. Your husband's partner, Richard Montgomery, buried the story. And when the files resurfaced, Wallace's voice trailed off. You know the rest. Clarissa pressed a hand to her mouth, tears hot and silent. He wasn't just saving me, she whispered. He was saving what was left of his truth. Wallace leaned forward. That's why he switched seats. He knew that if anyone could tell his story, it had to be you. The words sank in slow, like rain through cracked earth. For years, she'd lived above the world. Fine dinners, gala speeches, charity events. All while the people who'd built that empire were invisible beneath her feet. Now one of them had died so she could wake up. She stood slowly. We have to release it. Everything. The chip, the documents, his name. Wallace nodded, though caution dimmed his eyes. It won't be easy. They'll come after you. These aren't men who lose quietly. Clarissa's gaze hardened. Then they'll learn humility. By dawn, the story broke. A woman once known for her wealth now sat before cameras, voice trembling but resolute. Samuel Cole was not a janitor, she said. He was a man of integrity, silenced for knowing the truth. My husband's foundation was a front for crimes against the poor. And today, I refuse to hide it any longer. The world erupted. Headlines screamed. Philanthropy fraud exposed. Project Resurrection scandal. Cleaner turned whistleblower. Some called her brave. Others called her traitor. But Clarissa didn't care. She saw his face in every news feed. His name finally spoken with respect. In the weeks that followed, arrests were made. Richard Montgomery was caught crossing the border with falsified IDs. When they pulled him in, he was calm, almost amused. You think this ends with me? He told Wallace during interrogation. The real architects don't fall with headlines. Wallace had recorded it. Clarissa watched the footage one last time in her living room, surrounded by silence and half-packed boxes. She was leaving the mansion, selling it, giving the proceeds to rebuild the communities her husband's greed had scarred. She walked room to room, touching memories that no longer belonged to her. Silk, marble, lies. When she reached the study, a ray of morning sun cut through the curtains, striking the locket on her desk. She opened it again, not for the secret inside, but for the man behind it. "Thank you," she whispered. For a moment, it felt like the air shifted, as though the room itself exhaled. And faintly, almost imperceptibly, the hum returned. "Ain't no grave gonna hold my body down." Clarissa smiled through her tears. "You did it, Samuel. You made them see you." Weeks later, a memorial was held at the community center Samuel once cleaned. His daughter, Maria, stood beside Clarissa at the podium. The crowd was quiet: workers, mothers, janitors, pastors, people who knew struggle better than privilege. Clarissa took a deep breath and spoke. "He taught me that worth has nothing to do with status, and that dignity doesn't wear a suit. He was the man who saved me when I didn't deserve saving, and I'll spend the rest of my life honoring him." Applause rose, raw and real. Outside, children laughed, chasing paper planes across the grass. Clarissa tilted her head to the sky, clear now, peaceful. Maria turned to her, smiling through tears. "He always said people change when pain finally becomes their teacher." Clarissa nodded. "Then he was the greatest teacher I ever had." They stood in silence as the wind carried the sound of the hymn one last time. Months passed. Justice moved slowly, but truth had already taken flight. Clarissa lived simply now, volunteering, helping rebuild the same foundation Samuel once believed in. Every letter from strangers reminded her that redemption didn't erase guilt. It repurposed it. Then one evening, while closing the community hall, she noticed an envelope on her desk. No name, no stamp, just one phrase written across the front. "For those who still believe." Inside was a photo, old, grainy, of her husband Charles shaking hands with government officials under a banner reading Resurrection Initiative, Phase 2. And beneath it, a single line typed neatly, "If Phase 1 was buried, what do you think they did with Phase 2? Clarissa's hands trembled. Her phone buzzed, one message, same unknown number as before. "It's not over yet." She looked up at the window. The night sky stared back, calm, endless, unblinking. Clarissa whispered into the quiet, half fear, half faith. "Then neither am I." If you were Clarissa, would you expose the truth or stay silent? Comment your answer below. For more powerful stories like this, subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next one.